Welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln, where we take a look around the Lincoln, Nebraska area and introduce you to business owners and influential people in the city. We are brought to you by Perch Merch. Perch Merch is a locally owned, custom screen printing and embroidery apparel shop that also specializes in vehicle wraps, decals, and all sorts of promotional products. If your business, school, or team is looking to expand your brand, head to perch-merch.com or call us at 402-217-5212.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln. I'm your host, Chris Beecham, joined by my co-host, Henry Schmidt.
Hello, Chris.
And producer extraordinaire, Joe Cruz.
Hello, everyone.
So we're just going to get right into it. So today in the Perch Merch studio, we have Russ Cowan of Money Smarts, which is located at 130 Cherry Hill here in Lincoln.
Correct.
You also have a Crete location, though.
And Seward.
Jeez, whoa.
Big time.
Russ, tell us, what is Money Smarts?
Yep. So we are a full-service accounting firm doing accounting, bookkeeping, taxes, mostly for small business, though we do some what I call retail tax as well. So if you're in Lincoln and need taxes done, that's what we do.
And how did this come about, Russ?
Yep. So quite a few years ago when Chris and I first started working together, we worked at a company where the owner of the business needed a lot of help with numbers and accounting.
Is that how we're going to do this?
That's how we're going to do this.
Okay.
And so rather than get the bill from his CPA, he would ask me questions. I would answer those questions and try to guide him through numbers and finances for his business. And so as I got mentally tired of that job and ready to do something else, I formed this to specifically help small businesses with their questions and make it affordable so that they'll ask the questions rather than make mistakes. So that's why I started.
And you have a pretty good story, though, because you started, and, you know, I was one of your first clients. Was that your first
Pretty
client?
close. Not my first, but pretty close.
Okay. First.
Right. Absolute first. Yes. Before I even started.
I mean, you really started from scratch because you started with the SCC, like entrepreneurial program that they used to have where you could go rent an office. That's where I would go see you at.
Yep, absolutely. So it was in the Southeast Community College incubator programs where I started officially my business. It started a little before that in my basement, but I moved there within 6 months and kind of really launched things.
And how many employees, interns, everything do you have right now?
26.
So
Is that just in Lincoln, or is that including the other two?
Including the other two.
Okay.
So we have 2 full-timers in Seward, 1 half-time right now in Crete, and the rest of them are in a Lincoln office.
Okay.
And a couple remotes. So I have one person, one who specifically works with you named Ann, who is in Iowa.
Yeah, we've met Ann.
Ann's in Iowa?
Yep, Ann's in Iowa.
Well, we like Ann because she's the one that emails our check.
Right.
I was going to say, you guys do everything for all my businesses.
Right.
But it's not really you guys, it's Ann.
Yes, Ann does all the work. I'm just the pretty face behind the work. So yeah.
And, well, your whole staff's always been great. And I did not know that you specialized in small business, though.
Right, 100% in small business.
Got it.
And that's small. When I tell people what small is, it's small in accounting transactions. So the company we worked for before would not have been a good candidate because they have hundreds and thousands of transactions a month, where a company like you has several hundred. Absolutely in our wheelhouse.
Got it.
Yep.
So Amazon would not be in your wheelhouse.
Right. Yes, they're a little too big for us.
So you'd say no. You'd turn them down?
Yeah. Yep.
If they came to you?
Yeah, probably. Probably the only person ever who would turn them down. But yes.
But obviously it's worked out well because, I mean, your name's everywhere. Like every time there's a Facebook post, somebody's like, I need an accountant or I need this. And it's just a bunch of people recommending you.
We do get some love, and ultimately that's my job at the end of the day to make sure we're working hard and doing our very best. We have some people who love us and we have some people who hate us, but at the end of the day, are we doing everything we can for specific clients? My goal, and hopefully we end out on top on that most of the time.
Now, you said that, of course, you would handle a small businesses like from top to bottom.
Yep.
But you also said you're there for their questions and stuff. So is that if someone's trying to do their own taxes with their business, like would they be able to call you and get advice? And
potentially. So what we offer mostly is a subscription model.
Okay.
And so Chris's businesses, for example, are on a subscription with me where we're here for questions, we're here for meetings, we're here to do whatever they need to get the job done. We do have some one-offs. Sometimes I'll make a video for a client. If they're, how do I do my sales tax? I can handle it on my own. Show me once and I'll have it.
Yeah.
I might put a video or something together for them for a small fee and give them the information so they can do it on their own. But most people eventually say, it's
take
just
care of
easier
it.
to have you do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And we try to be reasonable enough that it works out for everybody. So
I say your main job is just keeping me out of jail.
Right. It's a task.
So far.
Right.
So
right.
good.
Yeah. Right. It's a daily thing, but
Yeah.
yes.
There are times that you've
Right.
said, hey, Chris, you can't
Right.
do that.
Probably ought not. Yes.
And I'm like, well, all right, fine. So tell us how you became an accountant.
Sure.
Were you always good with numbers? Or you
I
like-
honestly
you
was
like a big
always,
nerd in school,
always
or-
good with numbers. And so I attribute a lot of it to a one-room schoolhouse. I didn't grow up in the big city. I grew up in rural Nebraska. And so I went to good old District 19 where there were maybe 13 of us in the whole school.
Wait, okay, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Okay. I've never met somebody like you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
was that grades 1 through 12?
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
grades, it was grades 1 through 6.
1 through 6.
So you had one classmate, probably.
I had literally, I think in kindergarten there might have been 3 classmates, and then it was
Jeez.
1 classmate.
But you were all in the same room.
All grades were in the same room.
And how does that work?
The teacher says, hey, it's time for 3rd grade math, and you go sit at the table in the front of the room with the teacher and you do your 3rd grade math class.
Well, you don't look that old. Like that sounds like
Yeah, it's
like Little House on the Prairie.
To go a step further, in the yard of the school was the horse barn that was not in use when I was there, but it was there, literally.
Just in case.
And of course, we were never to go in there and never did.
Really?
Right.
Right.
Was there an outhouse, Russ?
There were indeed cement
Oh no.
bases for outhouses
Oh boy.
at that place under the mulberry tree that was in the back.
Man,
of
this
the
you
yard.
should start a show.
I know we could have a show just on what the one-room schoolhouse was like. But,
Where was this at?
outside of Beamer. So
Okay.
it's 4 miles outside of Beamer, which is between West Point and Wisner, or between Norfolk
okay.
and Fremont is
Okay.
Beamer.
Thank you for using those bigger
And then
cities.
7th grade, then what?
7th grade, then you go to town to school.
The big city.
Right. And so I did 7th grade in Beamer, and then we shifted schools to West Point, and that's where I graduated. Classes. Yeah.
And then you went into,
Then I went into the Navy.
yeah.
So 10 days after I graduated, I went into the Navy. Started out in naval nuclear power.
You
Did
look
all-
like that type.
Yeah. Did all the schooling for that.
The classic one-room schoolhouse in Nebraska to
Yes.
Navy nuclear.
Right. Go run a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just another day.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
As I was getting to where I could run the nuclear reactor, they said, no, we better shift gears. And so they sent me to the fleet to be a boiler technician. I passed all the schooling, but I had a medical issue. They said, no, go work on boilers instead. So I did. I got to the USS Shenandoah, and I had half a brain. And so they said, okay, well, rather than go into what we called the pit, rather than work directly on the boilers, go work in the lab.
The pit does not sound enjoyable.
It is not enjoyable, especially when you're in Cuba in June. It's 130 degrees, and you stand very short watches. Otherwise, you cook from the inside out. So it's not enjoyable. True.
But you were in the lab.
I was in the lab, which was air conditioned. It was perfect. I only had to go down there to get samples. Also perfect. So I was in the lab, and while I was in there, I applied for officer training. Got selected. Went to a college prep course called Boost in Rhode Island for a year. Ended up back here at UNL on an ROTC scholarship because that's what you earned by passing the schooling. So I'm on my ROTC scholarship. The first 6 months, they say, can't have a job. You just have to do ROTC. Second 6 months happen in January each semester. I take my W-2 from the Navy, go to H&R Block. Hey, do my taxes. What are you doing the rest of the day? I said, looking for a job. Do you want to work here?
No way.
And I said, absolutely. And so they brought out the district manager at the time.
You have a
Judy.
boiler room here?
Yeah.
Is that-
Hey,
Nuclear reactor.
they brought Judy out and said,
Boy, do we have a spot for you.
Right, we got a thing. Yep. Judy came out, hired me to be a courier. So I went to all the offices every morning, 7 days a week, dropped off stuff, picked up stuff, got through the season. They said the next year, do you want to do taxes? Sure, great. So I did taxes there for a couple of years.
They just let anybody just.
Yep. Yep. And so I took the course, did the taxes, ultimately kind of cut my teeth there in accounting. Got a degree from UNL in natural resource science, was never going to go back to school. Decided after that, let's go back for accounting. And so that's how we came to it. I worked at a big firm here in Lincoln for a couple of years. Then you and I worked together at another company, and then I started this. So, yeah.
So how long were you in the Navy?
It ends up being just a little over 5 years.
Okay, you made that sound like it was like...
It was very, very quick.
Yeah.
So when you get into the Navy, you go through boot camp. I think at that point it was 8 weeks, and then you wait for your school to start, which was A school is what they call it. And I learned how to be a machinist mate and learn how pumps work and valves work and all the different things. Then you wait for what was called power school. You wait for your power school class to start because they have to get enough students to start a 6-month course in nuclear power. And so that...
You do a lot of waiting.
Yep. That encompasses about 2 years of waiting. And then a year on the ship, went to Cuba, all over the Mediterranean. And then I'm picked up for officer training, which is another year. And then I come back to UNL for a year and a half. I was in ROTC. Yep. So a lot of waiting.
So what year did Money Smarts actually start? Did we cover that?
I think 2007. is
2007.
the official
That's been
year.
a while.
Been a minute.
So you were at H&R Block. What made you think, I'm going to do my own thing now?
No, he wasn't at
Yep.
H&R Block.
Yep. I skipped a couple steps. I was at H&R Block, and then I shifted over to a firm here in town. Ultimately, at that point, my wife and I at the time were having our first child. I needed to get a better job that pays more money. Shifted into private accounting. Had the better job that paid more money. Got asked to run operations there. I did that for a couple years. So that's a 5-year span, and then I decided I really missed doing the accounting after running operations, so I started this as my side hustle, moonlighting, doing accounting for a couple companies, and a couple grew into 30, and 30 grew into 40, and then I'm like, okay, I can't do both, so I quit my real job and started doing this.
Nice.
How many small businesses do you have in your...
299 monthly.
Is there a discount for the 300th?
Right, there might be, absolutely. If somebody calls me off of this and says I want to be the 300th, we might do a discount.
Got it.
So
do we get a commission too?
Yeah, we'll throw you out a commission. Right.
So tell us, what's a good accounting no-no that you've come across a lot?
Accounting no-no? Or
Besides me trying to write off
no-no?
my Burger King back in
Right.
the day as a business meal.
Business expense.
I get all kinds of things. And so a lot of times I'm transferring from an old accountant to you or vice versa. And well, my friend said I can write off my nails because I'm a real estate agent. I'm sure Chris does that all the time. And
No.
right. Yeah, it's because
Chime in.
his accountant won't let him. But, ultimately, you get a lot of ordinary and necessary, and people fudge the necessary as much as possible. So IRS says you can write off things that are ordinary and necessary to your business. It's like, well, having my hair done's necessary. Well, probably really not. It's great. I appreciate you not looking
Homeless.
like...
Is there a job that it would be necessary for?
Well, good point. And so I use this when I'm talking to clients. So I do a 1 hour free consult when I start with a client, and I'm like, okay, I always use the fingernail thing. And I'm like, but if I'm a hand model, having my fingernails done is ordinary and necessary.
Maybe like an actor would?
Right. Maybe like an actor, maybe something like that.
What about a
There's
DJ?
hand models.
Right.
Would a DJ apply?
That might be close. No, we can absolutely. Ultimately, so I tell people ordinary and necessary, but then I've added to that over the course of the years. I have basically 2 5-word sayings, but the one for that is that what really happened? And so I have to do continuing ed. In fact, I spent last Thursday and Friday doing continuing ed, unfortunately remotely, because the company I do it with is in Tampa. In years past, I've flown to Tampa or Key West and done my training.
Sounds terrible.
Ordinary? Yes. I'm not taking a private jet for a business my side. Necessary? Yeah, I needed the training. And I have clients there, so we connect for meetings sometimes. And
There you go.
It is a
I see
business
what you're
trip.
doing there, yeah.
it absolutely can be a business trip. 'Cause it's ordinary and necessary. Had to happen. So, yeah.
That's why I want to open up like a Perch merch in Vegas.
Right. Absolutely. I can
Yeah.
see it. Yeah.
Just a storefront.
Yeah,
Storefront
big.
with a heat press. You're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you brought that up because everything is always changing with the IRS, right?
Right. Right.
Because you're always putting out emails and notes like, hey, just so you know, this year you can't do this. Because wasn't it, and I could be wrong, and we cut this out, I'm not sure, but wasn't it you used to be able to, like the donation to the football program of UNL used
Right.
to be a write-off?
Yep, there was more of that. So it used to be before the Tax Act of 2017, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, you could do meals and entertainment.
And then
Yes.
applied for entertainment.
Right? They got rid of that and said now it's just meals. So yeah, when Chris and I used to go out and he'd take me to his skybox down at the stadium, and
It's good old times.
Yep, and we'd be in there and we could write it off because it was a business expense.
But now he just has to take you to a really nice dinner.
Right. Yep, I'm still waiting for the invite, but
That had to
theoretically-
affect them, though, a lot. A lot of people.
Sure, it
Some,
absolutely
Like,
did.
you're probably the one, yeah, because then you're the bad guy.
Right. Like, your
Saying,
whining
hey.
and dining doesn't do it for you anymore. You can wine and dine, but you can't take them to the best golf course in town and take them for a round of golf too.
Before you could, now you can't.
Right.
Lame.
At least for now. We'll see.
Got it. Okay, well, let's move to your oh shit moments.
Great.
Yeah. Not with me, but just in
Right.
general.
Right.
You can share one.
Right.
Let's start with the bad. When is the time since you started Money Smarts that you were like, ah, shit, I'm done. Like, this isn't going to work. I got to go back to H&R Block.
What time is it now?
Yeah. That is the correct answer.
So
but
I had a guy that you would know that ran a commodities brokerage that we knew that officed with us, and I used to say this to him, I'm like, hey, you must love life. You're self-employed. You get to do whatever you want. And he's like, dude, there's days I'd rather be delivering mail in the snow. I'm like, that's kind of what business ownership is like.
Yeah.
And so
Looks good from the outside.
right, it looks good from the outside. And so one of the things, probably 3 years-ish in that comes to mind is I hadn't gotten things really going yet. I wasn't making tons of money, and I could have got a job making more money somewhere else. And so I told my wife, if I can't figure out how to take a $30,000 paycheck next year, I quit. I'm done. Because I was working really hard and not making any headway. And so I finally sat down and looked at it. Of course, we all as business owners, I think, go into that this isn't worth it mode. Then hopefully stop to look at it. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not paying my cell phone bill. I'm not putting gas in my car. So I'd have to make $50,000 to even make what I'm making now. And so that's been a time that I've looked at and I'm like, man, this is done. Probably in the last 3-ish years, I've moved from me being in charge of absolutely everything to where I have managers in charge of departments. When I sat down and did the math before I did that, I'm like, okay, it'll take about 3 years to get back to where we're at now. So I'm going to make it a bad move for 3 years, and then it'll start paying off. And we're just now at the 3-year point, and it did, but it's been multiple times where I'm like, man, should I just go back and do taxes on my own? I could go back to doing this out of my basement
Yeah.
real easy and just keep a few clients and make
The ones you like.
right.
Yeah. So
more
me
money.
and, yeah.
Right, you and somebody else.
Lucchino.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
it's fine.
Right.
That's all.
Right. So certainly I look at that, and there's been plenty of times where I'm like, man, this is not, especially during tax season when I'm up at 4 and leaving the office at 8. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home and eat, set the alarm for 6 hours, and then I'll get up and go back. And so when you do that day after day, it wears you out, and then you start really thinking, man. But I saw a job last week up in Omaha for $100,000 for a accountant. I'm like, well, that'd be a little bit of a pay cut, but I could probably do that. Walk out
You can
at
make it
5
work.
o'clock
Yeah,
and not
right at
care.
5, boom.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
yeah.
No, I get
Don't
that.
do the hourly math.
Right. Yeah.
No, we can't do that.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so, but for all the bad like that, what are some I say the Jerry Maguire moment, where especially since you started, that one moment that you were like, nope, I'm never giving this up. This is what I want.
I don't know if that's happened yet.
Okay.
He's still waiting.
Well,
Day ain't over,
you're only
but-
in, what is it?
Yeah.
25
Only
years?
in like
Math is
17
hard.
years. Yeah. No, I think when I stop and look at it, I'm like, okay, well, we're supporting 26 families or 26 people. My business is doing enough that it's got a lot of people's lives and livelihood in hand. I think that's rewarding. I've had people in different groups that I'm in point out that you could make a lot more money just doing it yourself. And I'm like, well, it's not 100% about the money. It's about making this successful. And so when we hit a milestone and you say we're going to hit that 300th client or we're going to hit 100,000 in monthly billing, we're going to hit numbers like that. I'm like, they're just right on the tip of my finger. When we hit those, that's where the reward comes in.
Yeah.
It's like we're being more successful.
I would say being a business owner, the lows are low, but the highs are so high.
Right. They can certainly be in.
Like you're on top of the world sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm the best.
Right.
And then the next day, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
then you get
boom.
knocked back down and you're reminded that it's a big struggle. Yes.
For sure.
So I don't get the highs. I mean, I hate losing clients worse than anything in the world, but I don't get the lows I used to when a client leaves. I also don't get the highs I used to when a client comes on. So when Chris came on, I was like dancing in the hallways up at SEC. I was so happy. And it worked out so great, and I was going to get that extra $25 a month or whatever he pays me, and it was going to be awesome.
I wish I was grandfathered into
Right.
those prices.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you should have done a lifetime membership.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have been a host.
You probably would have signed it back then,
Right.
though.
Yeah. Back then, I'm like, hey, $25 and stuff only takes me like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Chris should have signed a one-time fee of $1,000.
Right. But so I don't get the highs and the lows from the littler things anymore. It's the bigger things. So. Yep.
And I do assume that from the first of the year to tax day is hell.
Yes, absolutely. 7 days a week, 14 or 16 or more hours a day.
So that's coming.
That's coming soon, really soon. So
And that's not just you. That's a lot of your employees, too. And
my employees are really, really lucky folks. So I don't require them to work overtime.
got it.
I do require that they get their work done. Some of them work overtime doing that, but I'm not like a normal firm where I make everybody put in 90 hours a week. I keep that for myself and let them put in what they feel they want to. Of course, if they're there 90 hours a week, they earn more money. So I don't forbade them, but I
And
also
less
don't
off of your
encourage
plate.
it.
Because I do know, there's been times where I'll get a phone call from somebody about doing my, yearly taxes for stuff. And I
Right.
said, I don't know who you are, but I am grandfathered in where
Right.
give me Russ. And
Yeah.
Because you've tried to pawn me off multiple times.
Every day. Yeah. Like anybody
I will
willing to
not
take
let it
Chris
happen.
today?
I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm meeting with Russ.
Right. Yes. So we do have more staff that do taxes, and we're growing more staff that does taxes. So
But with being especially centered around small businesses, that's all year long. The payrolls every
100%, 100%. All
So
year
it's not
long.
like
Yeah.
because I know a lot of accountants that I have known in my life work real hard then and then basically just
Right.
kind of
Well, and that was kind of the way it was done when I was at H&R Block. The people who were really, really full time there could work that season and file for unemployment the rest of the season or the rest of the year, and pick it back up in January.
Wow.
And so I always thought that would be a great life, but I don't know if I could sit around and do nothing that much time.
That's
So-
Yeah.
easier than teaching. That's
right.
3 months for summer. That's
Right. So yeah, I've kind of never been that way, and I don't know that I could honestly sit around that long. So
Joe.
well, the Brand Lincoln podcast. We love this city. We'd love to know what you like to do, entertainment wise, maybe restaurants or stuff for fun you like
stuff
to do
for
in this.
fun in this metropolis.
Yes.
When the Salt Dogs are around, we love visiting the Salt Dogs.
Got it.
Nice.
You take the whole fam to that?
The ones that are left. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't. Okay.
So the whole fam.
How many children?
Yeah. The whole fam.
I wasn't even going to bring this up. Listen.
That's all right. The whole fam consisted originally of hers, mine, and ours. So she had 2 and I had 2, and we have the last one together, and he is now 15. So some of those have wandered off into their own lives. And so often when we go now, it's party of 3 instead of party of 7.
Got it.
We spent a lot of years as party of 7, but now we're
So that should
party
help
of
your
3.
bottom line.
Oh, it helps a lot. Yeah, there's a little bit left every month sometimes. Yeah. So no, we do that. We do a lot of the kids in a lot of sports. So right now he's bowling for Southwest, and so he's going to be doing a lot of tournaments coming up.
Nice.
So he's doing that, and we don't do as many. We did a baseball travel team last summer, so we should be done with that and on to high school sports, and then he'll be done, and I'll just go home and sit and do nothing.
So you think, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So there's grandkids all of a sudden.
Right. Hopefully not. For
We're
a
not.
long
Yeah,
time.
we're not there yet.
Yeah, we
Let's
need
not-
a while.
let's not
A
put that in the
while.
universe. So
That's
right.
most of what I do, but of course I enjoy Husker sports and try to get down to a game a couple times a year now that my son's old enough to really enjoy and take it all in, and I remind him of the glory days and how much better we used to be than we are currently, and he reminds me that we're going to get better again, and I say yes we are, and we move on. So.
sure, what could go wrong? All right, where would people find you if they're interested in?
Yep. So the best way to get a hold of us is call. So that's 402-817-3939 would be the phone number. That's for any of the locations. I do travel on Wednesdays, so I'm in Seward and the Crete office on Wednesdays. Otherwise, I'm at the Lincoln office almost all the time. But if you call there, they will find me and get you in for an appointment with me.
Got it. Anything else, fellas?
I think that'll wrap it up.
Thank you, Russ.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, Russ,
Thank you
it's
so
been
much.
great.
You were genuinely interested, and I had no idea.
Right. You're like,
Don't sound
boy.
so surprised.
God, this is going to be an accountant.
I never
This
doubted
isn't
him
going to
for a
work out
minute.
good.
I had to beg you to come on.
Hey, they keep me busy. I mean, like literally, I got out of an appointment and I'm going back to one. So,
Got it.
got to have something to do today.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you.